Welcome to our coaching series. Today we're going to talk about what we do in case in our relationships, either us or our partners no longer want to have sex with us. And we're going to discuss it not just with my input, but also with your answers in the community polls. Hi, this is Liana, Holistic Intimacy Coach. Welcome back to my channel. Here, I help you get your orgasmic intimacy. And now I'm actually getting you to also contribute to the answers. So, about 2 months ago, I announced a poll with this situation, which I'm going to read it to you. Here's it on screen. 2 people have been married for over a decade. We will exclude the children variable for now. The wife is less or almost non-responsive to the husband's approaches for physical intimacy. Your approach in this hypothetical case would be to... And we have some options. Before I get into the options, I want to present to you the very big irony of the situation. Since I posted this poll, I'm looking at it on screen, that's why I'm lowering my eyes. One thing happened to me, and then I witnessed another really horrendous thing. And I was not available for a lot of things, including filming this topic and speaking about these things. So today, I'm actually going to speak to you from not just theory or past experience. I'm going to talk to you from recent, very recent experience. So let's get into the answers now, and I'm going to add my comments as I read them. The first most voted answer was, try to find out gently why she no longer enjoys sex with him. So we had 8 votes. Not a lot of votes on this one, but 75%, that would be 6 votes, went to try to find out gently why she no longer enjoys sex with him. And this applies for the situations when nothing very obvious has happened, meaning she's not ill, she's not recovering from an accident, she doesn't go through a very intense psychological or emotional episode, which for women can take a toll on their libido. They haven't quarreled, so nothing extreme has happened. She's not overwhelmed with work. No obvious inhibiting factor came up. Okay, that's what I'm talking about here. So in this situation, yes, you ask her, what happened? If it's not something that, okay, you're not ill, we don't have money problems, we're not overworked, there's no problems in our extended families, there's no accidents to recover or any illness to recover from, no hormonal imbalance, so nothing that we know of. Okay, what's up? Obviously, gently looks different for every single one of you. I'm just speaking now not as if I were speaking to an intimate partner, I'm speaking now as if I was speaking to you in coaching. Okay, that's the tone here. So, in this situation, I've said in a lot of my previous videos that there's something that women do, and I think a lot of men also do. So people marry the person who looks like the job, quote unquote. Men marry the women who look like wives or like mothers, or can fulfill those roles, even though they may not be so hot for them. Women marry men who fit the role of the dad or the husband. They look like the part, they act like the part, especially the act, okay? They do the things that a good father does, a good husband does. Even though they're not necessarily extremely attracted to them. All right, that needs to be said. They will never admit to that. Okay, this is something that only the person knows. In the long term, when there's a lot of familiarity, yes, libido for either one of them will go down. And if there wasn't much to begin with, it can end up in the place where they just don't feel it, okay? They don't get aroused by their life partner. They're not going to say that, they're just going to withdraw, and they're going to come up with a lot of reasons because it is very painful, and that's because they're not owning the reason they married. That's what happens. Okay? And this is not something, again, that people will say very honestly one to the other. They do say it in therapy, they say it in coaching. That's why I'm telling you now that I heard it so many times. Okay? Then there are people who never marry unless it's the partner that they are really hot for and love, and also, have all those things. So a lot of people nowadays go for the option of, if it's not the whole package, I'm not going to marry because it's not good in the long term. In the past, people married even if the person wasn't the whole package. And then situations like these came up. And for a lot of people, the second option, find other ways to express. Corn, sex parties, strip clubs, etc. For a lot of people, those were options. And those were options without discussing. Okay? So it was not discussed. Nobody asked questions, so none of the two partners. People just took the situation as it was, and everybody found ways, on the side to cope with the situation. Again, this is the era where people didn't go to therapy, didn't speak about these things. They just took situations as they were. They spoke about it with their buddies or with their girls, okay, respectively, men, respectively, women. But the situation was really not pinky. And a lot of people accepted that this is what marriages end up in situations like these. Two people here voted for this option. Now, my take on it is, if you've found the way to discuss with your partner, so maybe there is a situation where there's illness, there's injury, there's something is going on, and the two of you understand that one partner, for whatever reason, they just can't do it now, and you agree, okay, I love you, I want to be in this relationship, I got to express. And usually this is the man who's got a higher libido because of testosterone. Okay, higher levels of testosterone, higher sex drive. That's why the most frequent situation is for men to go about it in this way. But at least they let their partners know. Okay? I think that these days, when we have social media, when people get filmed, I don't know, they get caught in all kinds of situations, I think it's much better for the two to discuss and own it. Otherwise, if you are in this situation and you try to solve your situation to the best of your abilities, but you don't speak to your partner, if somebody catches you, records you, sends the recording to your partner, there's extra mess that is not needed, okay? Because you two aren't having sex because there's something problematic already. You don't want to pile up more problems, right? So I think speaking about this is really the mature way to go about it. Okay, now we're getting into the third and fourth options that nobody voted for. So the third option, seek long-term side partner only for sex. This one's risky. Yeah, it is. Because a lot can happen, meaning you can find that the person you're having sex with, I don't know, there's so much passion there that you decide to change partners. And there was, in the book The Erotic Mind by Jack Moran, there was this situation described by one husband. He had been married for a lot of years to a woman, and at a certain point the woman's libido went down, and he decided, he found another woman who was higher in libido. He divorced, married that second woman, and after a while her libido also went down. There are many reasons for which the libido goes down. And this man, after the second wife also died, he was extremely angry with her after she died because he had felt deceived. Because he ended up in the same situation as with his first wife. He loved tremendously his first wife. So please understand, this situation where you seek a side partner for long term, it can backfire. Everybody can understand that we have needs. People don't go about them in the way of whipping themselves, like priests do. If they have needs and they can't express them, they whip themselves. Yeah. Regular people don't do that, so they go about it with getting somebody else. The risk is that you switch partners and then you end up in the same situations, because married life has a lot of challenges. And being in an adventure with somebody, whatever you guys want to call it, adultery, you're just seeing the highs. When you see the person overall, yeah, libido can go down, and maybe it's not the reason to break up or divorce. Okay, so this one is risky. Okay, this one is risky. However, it is something that a lot of people do. Some people take the risks, some people pay the price for it, and so on. And the fourth option, something else like therapy, marriage counseling, divorce, etc. So I did put divorce here in the mix because, first of all, therapy, this is something that I would encourage. Okay, marriage counseling, something that I would encourage. Coaching, this is something that I would definitely encourage in those situations. So not to neglect this option, but I think people avoided it by the word divorce. Well, if the married couple has married for the wrong reasons, meaning just to fit the role society wanted them to see, their family wanted them to see in, okay? A lot of people marry for their families, not for themselves. And it is, marriage is a union between families. It's an institution, okay? That's how it was set up. I've discussed about it in previous videos here, but I'm gonna remind you this one. So not everybody marries for the passionate or romantic reasons. People marry for the pragmatic reasons, okay? Distribution of wealth, holding the wealth within the family, passing it down to their genes, gene pool, whatever, I don't know the word here. That's how marriage was set up, okay? But these days, because not a lot of people have a lot of wealth, for some centuries now, romance and passion have been brought into the mix of marriage. That's to allow people without resources to also find a partner and marry, and not let them be single, miserable, not expressing physically, not attaching themselves romantically. Like, we also have this need to mate that we also see with animals. So yeah, some people marry for the wrong reasons, and that's why divorce is an option when things get intense. It's not just with lack of sex though, okay? Because they didn't marry for passion, they married for other reasons. When those other reasons start to crumble, okay, the person doesn't fit the job, the role, the bill of the mother or father, or husband or wife, whatever that is in society, for their joint families, whatever, then that's when divorce is an issue, okay? So usually, that's why I put it at the very end, because divorce isn't just for one reason, it's usually an accumulation of reasons, all right? However, the therapy and marriage counseling, I definitely recommend it. It helps you, whoever you are having the courage to take that step, it helps you get more answers, insights, and to grow more. And usually, a lot of people who go to therapy find ways to save their relationships because they transform themselves. And by transforming themselves, the relationship, even if slightly, it also transforms. Sometimes, if the mess is so big, therapy will get them to own the situation, realize that there's no salvaging, and they do break up, okay? But that's because that's the better option, instead of living miserably, like two people, maybe with children, who knows, in a miserable union. That's also the case, okay? Nobody's... so therapy and counseling and coaching really help you to question yourself from within and realize and assess better the situation. No, you're not going to get advice, because nobody can give you advice. Nobody can live your life for you. But if the process is followed through and you allow it, you know, the time to unfold, because a lot of people, they go once, twice, and then, this is not going anywhere, I'll just quit it. That also happens, sadly, because a lot of people think that complex situations that developed over years, they need to get fixed in 1 or 2 sessions. That's unrealistic, if you ask me, but, you know, but a lot of people give the process due time, months or maybe a year or two, and they finally see the light through and they realize what is the best option for everybody involved. Okay, at a certain point, you kind of realize if the situation is toxic, it's toxic for everybody. Husband, wife, children, extended family. Okay, so therapy, counseling, coaching, these things can help. Not overnight, there are no miracles. Problems didn't appear overnight. Solutions don't appear overnight. I know some people want to give you that, but I would strongly urge you to not go about it like that. So now, what about my experience? Because I said that I went through something. In the month of September, two things happened. One to me, another to somebody else, but it was extremely traumatizing to me also. Both of them included sexual harassment. In my case, okay, so I experienced sexual harassment and I posted a short reel here. And that affected me. It was very, very small, but it already was a lot to piss me off, and I needed time to go to the police, to talk with all the parties involved. This was in a public space, to fix it. And then 2 weeks later, I found out about Yumong Long's case. You saw the video, the 44-minute long video that I posted. That case was extremely traumatizing. And I wasn't the only one, okay? A lot of people, because those videos and audios were released with no trigger warning, just like that, freely to the public. Extremely irresponsible of people to do that, okay? And mass trauma was unleashed. Please understand, people all over the world saw those videos of torture and audios of torture and found out all the details. That was, I don't recommend you to start looking for it, honestly. But I came across it by, I wanted clarity, but I never expected I would be given that kind of atrocious materials. So I went through shock. Several days I was dissociated. Okay, that's extreme shock. And then the post-traumatic stress disorder, which I had to regulate. And it took me a long time. Those of you who also follow me on my TikTok, you know that I've shown up almost daily there with videos, because speaking about it and coming up with constructive insights and solutions also helped me. Okay, I was also doing a lot of stuff in the background for myself to protect myself, to release the tension and so on. That's why I also uploaded that audio here with the breath work. But I was not available for anything. Okay, no pleasure in these 2 months because I was recovering from a traumatic episode. There's no libido in that situation. And I understand how trauma functions. I never forced myself to take something out of me that was just not there. And also I didn't want to show up here with this topic because, yeah, I was in trauma, recovering from a traumatic episode. So I know just recently how messy that can be. And I'm glad nobody wrote comments here, angry comments to say, well, you promised us, what are you doing, where are you, and so on. Like, that would have been, you know, if I were in a relationship and my partner would have known about the trauma that I was experiencing and he would still reproach me that I wouldn't be available. But that, to me, would be reason to break up. So I'm glad nobody pushed me here because I would have broken up with you guys. In a coaching sense speaking, okay? I can finally smile again, although I'm still hurt by that episode and that absolutely beautiful human being that was just, that's no way to be treated by anybody. Nobody deserves that. Maybe the people who did that deserve to feel, you know, get a taste of their own medicine, maybe them. But otherwise, this guy was innocent and yeah, nobody, man or woman, adult or child, nobody, animal or human, nobody deserves such a fate. And it was extremely, and a lot of people are still in trauma. And I'm still showing up on TikTok for whatever reason. That's where I found out. That's where I felt the need to take the subject. I didn't want to expand it here, okay, because it was traumatizing just to bring up those stories. I was very, very careful how I showed up on TikTok, and I still am. However, I just didn't want to, I made that long video here presenting the case with as little emotion as possible, okay, because I know that these topics are heavy. So I just want to, I want to be of help here. I want to be a resource. I don't want to contribute to traumatizing people. However, do know that this is what was going on with me, and with anybody in my shoes, that would have been the case, okay? You barely sleep, you can barely think, you're crying a lot of the time, you're scared because it's like trauma, it's really complex. There's no sexual drive in that moment, especially for women, okay? Our testosterone does not compare to the testosterone of men. When you're like this, I wouldn't recommend to anybody to be intimate with their partner, because on a subconscious level, you transmit that even more powerfully, because your partner is going to feel, if you're in pain, suffering, trauma, your partner is also going to be affected anyhow. So there's all the more reason for you to purge it out of your system. But if you engage in those moments, that's even worse. Okay, you're making it worse for the two of you. So that was the situation. This is my take. I'm going to come up with a next episode, but first I'm going to put up another post, and I'm going to get your votes. So see you soon.